Not everyone in the community has one, but everyone here knows about them. If you're listening to my show, of course, I bet you do. Or do you? Don't worry if you can't guess what I'm getting at. It could be one of two things. One of them has a cover, and the other's made of people. This episode, we're going to talk about the history and function of secret societies in the world, and see what ideas the past can provide for the future. And speaking of the past, history has other fascinating treasures for us. The books of secrets. Everyone with more secrets than their memory can hold keeps a book, from magicians to mysteriosophists, which is a fancy word I'm rather proud to call myself, and I'll tell you why in a bit. Put on your disguise, pour yourself a cup of tea, and take a step between silver and glass to a world of homebrew magic where secrets are power and daytime reality need not apply. For those of you under the radar and in the know, I'm Amanda Lockridge, and you're listening to the Noctuary. Today is the day when we dive into one of the big subjects, secret societies and how they've shaped history, but not so fast, dear listeners. You know the drill. First, we've got a puzzle to tackle. Today's riddle, specifically a lateral thinking puzzle, is a sort of basic logic puzzle, something that requires context. This one's going to be trickier than usual. Ready? The title of this riddle is Bluebeard's Treasure, and it comes from Perplexing Lateral Thinking Puzzles by Paul Sloan and Danse MacLeod. The pirate Bluebeard buried his treasure on a desert island. Sometime later, he heard that one of his enemies had obtained a copy of the map which showed the exact location of the treasure. But Bluebeard was not worried. Why not? As usual, the answer will be at the conclusion of the episode. Once upon a time, humans started excluding each other from things. It was bound to happen sometime, given the suspicious nature of a good number of us, but that's besides the point. There were a number of reasons why, and in this particular case, a group started practicing in secret because they had a secret worth keeping. There are a number of definitions out there for a secret society. My personal favorite comes from Richard B. Spence, who calls a secret society not an unknown society, but a society with a secret practice that it hides from non-members. The earliest societies that fit this definition are the various cults of the ancient days, with the most famous being the mystery cults of Greece. Plenty of alcohol and pennyroyal were involved, as well as manic dancing and secret rites under the full moon, and plenty of other hullabaloo that historians all agree was terrific fun. As time passed, other societies arose. Around the time when Europe was in its dark ages, other regions of the world were doing just fine, and they formed groups to conceal military secrets. The Assassins, and I mean the same assassins that the games are based on, and the ninja clans are two examples. Highly exclusive, highly mysterious, and very jealous about their manuscripts, guarding the secret formula for field rations, weapons, explosives, you name it, all sorts of useful knowledge for covert warfare. Then came the Renaissance, and its little sibling after, the Enlightenment. These times brought about yet another breed of secret society, the intellectual societies. Ever heard of the Illuminati? This was their time. Same for the Freemasons, and my personal favorite, the Bluestocking Society. Maybe not as famous as the Illuminati, but twice as interesting, the Bluestocking Society was an intellectual society of women who met and discussed all sorts of esoteric subjects, from ancient languages to logic puzzles. How did they identify one another, you ask? By the trademark powder blue stockings. Then, at long last, we come to the modern era, with a whole menagerie of societies about. Nowadays, since they're still here and they still exist, they're a little easier to find. After all, the trouble of secret societies is the secrets tend to vanish along with the society. But for those who are interested, there are dozens of these groups still alive and well and ready to study, from the famous, like the ever-present Freemasons, to the obscure, like the 52, societies of gourmands, of magicians, literaries, intellectuals, even hacktivists. Ever heard of Anonymous? I'll let you study that one on your own time. Look for the Guy Fawkes mask. In short, as long as there are secrets worth keeping, there will exist societies to keep them. This means secrets of all kinds, from the dangerous to the insignificant, because societies don't always have to exist in devotion to secrets. They can also exist for camaraderie, for people to enjoy close connection because they're all in on something. They know something that the rest of the world doesn't. Does it really matter what that thing is? Maybe it's a particular recipe for tea. Maybe it's an obscure philosophy. Maybe it's a knowledge of some obscure practice or facts that absolutely anyone could know if they just cared to look. Like oneironautics, for example. Now for the real question, why does all of this history matter? Well, I wouldn't bring it up if it didn't. The community of the covert, the obscure, and the incognito ought to know its legacy. Societies of our kind should know where our roots are. For what is the future but a path built from the fruits and labors of the past? We're here to make the world a stranger place, and we can do that all the better when we know what came before. Naturally, I would advise against forming a society around something dangerous, such as encouraging rebellion against a ruler, experimenting with and storing knowledge on dangerous weapons, or keeping mind-altering substances. All these things are deeply frowned upon in most nations. However, finding like-minded people, maybe keeping an art form alive, one that you find worthwhile, and enjoying the companionship of a common secret are all perfectly honorable pursuits. If you have a secret worth keeping, and you don't feel the need to keep it alone, by all means seek out other members, and when you're ready to present yourself to the world, let me know. I'd be honored to raise a cup of tea for you. Remember to do your homework first, and best of luck. Bluebeard once buried his treasure in such a way that he was perfectly confident that anyone with a map wouldn't find it. Have you figured out how he accomplished this? Let's go over it again. The pirate Bluebeard buried his treasure on a desert island. Some time later, he heard that one of his enemies had obtained a copy of the map which showed the exact location of the treasure. But Bluebeard was not worried. Why not? For those of you who aren't entirely sure, I've got a hint for you. The map did show the exact location of the treasure, and the enemy would be able to reach the island and excavate the spot. However, Bluebeard had buried the treasure in a way which he believed optimized his chances of recovering it. I'll let you think about that. The answer will be at the end of the show. Mysteriosopist. That's a fun title to put on your business card, or possibly your society ID. It means someone who studies the doctrine and knowledge of secrets and mystery. If you're listening to my show, this title probably applies to you. Now you know. Alright, now that we've established that we are one and all Mysteriosophists, I've got a mystery for you. Has anyone here heard of the Voynich manuscript? The Book of Shadows? The Book of Soiga? The Codex Seraphinianus? Grimoires? A publication rather aptly named The Secret? All of these are mysterious, compelling, and stuffed full of unsolved secrets, and they make such a delicious Noctuary entry, each and every one. Unfortunately, we don't have time to cover all of these, so what connects them? What do they have common with an ordinary diary? Or perhaps an heirloom cookbook, or the teachings of a master artist to an apprentice? The idea of a book of secrets is as old as the idea of books, but the origins aren't nearly as interesting as the name suggests. A book of secrets, in its heyday, was a book mainly of trade secrets, detailing lots of useful ways to enamel metal and create pretty alloys and brew cures for the common cold, and a lot of these got published because a lot of them got sold. Everyone wants to be in on the secrets of this and that, so anything with the word secret on the cover simply went flying off the shelves. Books like these fill the Internet Archive, and some of them are still useful today, with a few hidden gems and perfumeries and confectionaries that we can still use to make fine soaps and cakes and such. But what about books of forbidden knowledge? That's what sets the imagination on fire. Well, you can find those too. Occult knowledge is dime a dozen. But what I'm more interested in, and what I'm sure you're more interested in, dear listeners, is practical magic. You know, the sort that anyone can actually do, with no supernatural contacts required. Fireworks, mentalism, sleight of hand. Harry Houdini had an incredible library just like this as he made his career debunking magicians and spiritualists. Little did he know that he'd eventually embrace the craft, but I suppose that's what happens when you're well read on a subject. Anyhow, the fact of the matter is that both secret books and books of secrets are not a matter of fiction, but of fact. Every acclaimed chef has the book of secret recipes. Every esteemed magician has their secrets behind their acts. And if they cannot hold those secrets in their heads, they write them down. But how does one keep one secret book secret? It's hardly useful if they're announced to the world. Secrets lose their value when they lose their secrecy. Well, if you've solved the riddle of Bluebeard's treasure already, you'll know exactly how to hide your secrets, or at least one way. If you were a girl raised in standard suburbia Americana, odds are, for one of your birthdays or one Christmas, you got a little diary with a key and a lock to keep it safe. But if you were raised like I was, just outside the fringes of normal, you would have gotten books of secret codes and guides of how to be a spy, and books like The Art of Misdirection, all things that taught you that the best hidden diary is the one that doesn't look like a diary at all. I swiftly learned, when I was about yay high, that if I took an ordinary composition book and wrote algebra notes on the cover and filled the first few pages with math, nobody would dig any deeper to find that it wasn't a school book at all. But that's just one way to hide your book. Maybe putting a misguiding cover on it is all that's required. Nobody cares about a book of ichthyology except someone who knows what that word means and is absolutely wild about studying fish. But if you wish to discourage even the strangest of curious individuals, it may behoove you to learn a code as well, which we'll discuss in another episode because that's a worthy topic. Or maybe make like Leonardo da Vinci and write everything backwards. If all else fails, then the best course of action is to simply hide your book and ensure that nobody knows about it. If nobody knew Bluebeard even had treasure to bury, then he need not have hidden anything. If everyone knew he had treasure, but he left no map, then the world would be searching forever. Now, for you enterprising souls, here's how to make your own book of secrets, and to keep it secret, just the way we like it. First, something to write on. Nobody said that the book had to be in ordinary codex form. Scrolls, tablets, or even a series of trees in the woods are all acceptable, depending on your needs. Second, something to write with. Pens with ink are a very popular method, but that's not the only way. You could always use a hole punch, or even embroider your messages with needle and thread. Third, a language to use. Your native language is always acceptable, but have you by any chance tried Braille, or maybe Morse? Fourth, a secret or three worth writing down, meaning the secret's valuable enough to be worth remembering, but not so valuable that you wouldn't risk its eventual discovery. You are, after all, taking the chance that your book will eventually be found and deciphered. Where that balance lies is up to you. If you don't yet have any secrets, then congratulations on being such an open and genuine person in life. Or maybe you're just new to the community. If that's the case, welcome! You'll gather plenty of secrets soon enough, don't worry. Finally, a way to hide the book. A series of trees hides itself, and a codex form may be disguised as something it's not. Whatever the method, be sure to guard your book well. That's all for this segment. I hope I got the wheels turning and your imagination going. Perhaps we'll see some mischief from you in the future. Well, once again we've come to the end of our show, and I've sadly come to the end of my pot of tea. But don't worry, I've just put the kettle on to brew a fresh one for next time, and we're going to have quite the treat for you then. Coming up is a special guest who's going to talk to us about illusion, and then you and I are going to have a little chat about treasure hunting. Speaking of treasure, have you cracked the riddle yet? How did Bluebeard hide his treasure? Well, let me tell you. Bluebeard buried his treasure at the spot shown on the map. He knew that a copy of the map might be made, so he dug a shaft 30 feet deep and buried 3/4 of his treasure there. He covered that and filled the shaft to a depth of 10 feet, where he buried the remaining treasure, which he was prepared to sacrifice to protect the rest. He reckoned that no one who had found a substantial treasure at 10 feet would dig a further 20 feet, and then once word got out that his treasure had been taken, no one else would look for it. When the mask comes off and the teacup is empty, make sure to spare a glance back at the looking-glass. In a show concerning secrets, there are secrets to be found. Now ask yourself, was there anything you might have missed? I'll leave you to your pondering and to add to noctuaries of your own. Happy scheming!